Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer, voyager, quarter of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. In this video, I'm going to take a deep dive and rank all 10 adventures of Dragon Delves, the new anthology adventure book from Wizards of the Coast, designed for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, 2024 edition, and available on Roll20, which is what I'll be using to do this review. An early review copy has been provided. If you enjoy these videos and watching fun weekly live plays and other D&D content, you can support my channel via patreon.com/roguewatson. Also, this will be very full of spoilers. This will be the most spoilery of the Dragon Delve videos that I've got because I will be going over every single adventure. So if you are going to play or think you're going to play any of these adventures, this video is not meant for you. It'll be full of spoilers and is meant for all of the DMs who are looking at running these adventures. And if you just want my opinion to break down each of these adventures, which ones work, which ones don't, and which ones that I would really like to run in my games, because some of them are very, very good. I will be going in order. My coverage will not be going in order of the book. Instead, I'll be going in my ranking order in reverse order, starting from the one that I would rank at the bottom at number 10, going all the way up to my number 1 adventure. Also, we're looking at the cover screen, which I should have made for my Roll20 review because this one didn't come with its own nice splash page of artwork. And by the way, go check out my Roll20 review, Dragon Delves, because then I go over the full product and the just overall art structure and how it handles dragons and the adventures, and I go over maybe like 2 or 3 of the adventures at the same time, but it gives a lot of my overall thoughts about the anthology in general. But this is the kind of companion video to that where I go over all of the individual adventures. All right, so first of all, I hope you all have your own thoughts and ideas about it. If you don't, this might be your first time looking into these adventures, but of course I'm definitely willing to not argue, but comment on any of the comments on what your thoughts are in this video. All right, starting at number 10, which I think is the weakest of the adventures in Dragon Delves for me is the silver dragon. I want to say it's a black dragon because it's Orcus. The silver dragon adventure, Temple of the Will of Orcus is what it's called. This is the level 4, I believe. Yeah, designed for level 4 characters. This features a silver. It's a very weird premise. A silver dragon is basically looking for a lair. I don't know why a silver dragon looking for a lair in an old abandoned Orcus temple, but in doing so, they found a cult who is wanting to set up shop here, and they hid inside this nasty, cool, giant skull statue of Orcus, and basically just kind of they were like Wizard of Ozing it. Basically, they're like pretending to be their cult's leader and issuing very weird, silly orders to them, like painting clouds and sky blue stuff everywhere and toppling all of the statues and stealing a bunch of like really just random supplies from the nearby town. It's an odd plan, and the party is supposed to be interested in like trying to rescue these or just save these random items. Where's the handout? Yeah, so it almost sounds off like a heist thing because they're given the map, which is kind of neat. But yeah, they're just it's like pots of paint and brushes, incense, ladders, like it's a whole bunch of just random supplies. And so the party is sent here to just rescue those supplies, but also there's some, cult activity. So there's a weird part where it's supposed to be kind of a jokey thing going on, which makes me feel like, okay, this might be good for like a level 1 adventure maybe, where this cult is like clearly inept and silly and the whole plane is kind of silly, and yet it's level 4 and there are plenty of like legit enemies in here. Like the very first room to me should set like the tone, and if anything it's just nope, she's still loyal to the cult and there's a bunch of zombies in here. They're toppling statues and stuff and ghouls, but the party is still supposed to just fight them as a traditional battle. So it's very odd. Like it wants to do it both ways. It wants to be a traditional dungeon crawl with a bunch of undead enemies, but also be like this really goofy, silly premise. And then the boss fight doesn't work for me either because more than likely, with the design of this dungeon, the party stumbles upon the main boss, who is currently engaged in a very silly, like, they're painting this whole hallway, like, there's, like, zombies on ladders, and it's all very goofy and silly. Which you can make a farcical, like, silly dungeon thing if it's... But this is, like, a legit, like, nasty boss fight here. She's a Ghast Gravecaller, which is, I think, a new stat block in D&D 2024. It's kind of a good use of this creature, I guess, is not quite a spellcaster, basically, but a more powerful. I guess she can cast Speak with the Dead, but really she's all about her just basic attacks, which are pretty strong, including range attacks. But then she like runs back to the statue and says, "What should we do?" And the statue is like, "Prove yourself to me." And then they engage in this fight. And then the next round, the silver dragon pops out and helps you defeat them. And they're like, "Oh, good job, we defeated them." And then it's over. It's very, very strange. It works better, and then the adventure even says it works better because there's a scene where if the party doesn't meet the boss first, which again 90% of the time I believe they are, because that's the main building here and the doorway's even open, like unless they do a really good job of sneaking around and the first room is a battle, they're mostly going to trigger that boss fight. If they don't manage to do that, then there is a funny scene, let's see, T13, where they meet up with the dragon statue who like tries to like command them for some reason, issues a random command. He wants them to prove themselves. So there's a way to make this work, which is I think you would pressure or encourage the party to pretend that they are new recruits. I don't know how the setup would, obviously have to alter the setup for that. Pretend you're new recruits into the Orcus Temple, and then you have to go before the statue and receive your orders, and the party can immediately tell like something odd is going on here. And then especially if the Silver Dragon manages to catch them alone after they prove themselves to do something like topple a statue or wreck the books or do something, which again, it's all supposed to be very odd because this whole cult, which is a legit cult, is doing things that are like undermining themselves. But that's the point because the statue is trying to have them do that because that's really a Silver Dragon. And the Silver Dragon can reveal themselves. Or maybe it'd also be more interesting if the Silver Dragon was somehow became trapped in this statue and actually needed the party to help release them. So maybe that's an excuse to go do something. Maybe they need some kind of item or there's maybe it accidentally like set up a latch or there's a lever somewhere that has to be done in order to free the dragon. And so the party, and so you can still keep it like a little mix of combat plus social and role playing stuff, I guess, in certain areas. There's also like a ghost who is a legit old cultist who's like, "What are you guys doing in here?" But it won't harm the other cultists. So there's potential to make this work. And obviously I love the map art. I think this looks like a Mike Schley map art of the classic, like, Prince of the Apocalypse type stuff. But as written, I think it's just kind of a disaster. And it really, I don't know if it tries to be like, it's a level 1, like silly dungeon crawl, or it's like, oh no, this is a legit like level 4, like monster filled undead dungeon crawl. And then I just don't like the whole Silver Dragon just popping out and the boss fight and everything. It just, none of that works for me. So this is one where I would have to redesign the whole thing in order to make it work, and that's a lot of work to make it work. And also, I think it's just a bizarre thing for the Silver Dragon to be like mischievous and tricking everybody and pretending to be like the skull thing. So, for me, the Will of Orcus is at the bottom of the list. Which a lot of these actually don't have a very good conclusion at the end. The main plot is just kind of silly, where it's just like, oh yeah, I was trying to undermine them from which I mean, again, even a Silver Dragon wormling, can kick a lot of ass in here. Like, it's granted probably can't take out the grave caller and everything, but I don't know. It's the whole plan was just for them to steal random shit, and that would attract adventurers, I guess, to help defeat them. I don't know. I didn't like it. Even though I like the map art and stuff, but it did not work for me, which is a shame because it's one of the few that does do a good job of not letting you know it's a dragon lair. There's a lot of them that I think could do better if they didn't reveal the fact that a dragon was behind things. And this is one of the few that actually start off and you make it pretty far in before you even realize there's a dragon involved. That's like the only thing that I actually like about it. All right, so Will of Orcus is my number 10. Number 9 is the Brass Dragon. This is the level 5, I believe, and it is For Whom the Void Calls. This has a really neat area that I just don't think is utilized very well. It also starts off very interesting, with the party being telepathically contacted by a sentient bag of devouring who has been stealing objects. Basically, the brass dragon randomly got this item in its hoard, and it has been eating gems and stuff, and the dragon is really pissed and blaming the minions of the lair, which is funny. But the party is contacted and they're given all the information straight up just telepathically, which is annoying. The thing identifies itself as a bag, which that's like the best twist to hold on to as a DM. Like, why would you reveal that right at the beginning? I'm a bag of holding imbued with sentience. Like, no, just don't tell them that. And that's a funny twist at the end, or an interesting twist where it's like, oh wait, we thought we were trying to save a person and it's a fucking bag. And even the bag of holding is not a bag of holding, it's a bag of devouring. Like, that's good. At least it doesn't give it that much information. It pretends to be a bag of holding. But I wouldn't even do that much. I would just say, help, help, I'm being held in this place. And you could also make it a surprise dragon thing. You don't have to even explain it's a dragon lair, even though the bag tells you all these things. It tells you everything here. The lair is the interesting part, and that's what makes this at least better than the Temple of Orcus, and that is an old Githyanki creche that was a place for them to raise their young. So it's this interesting, like, almost sci-fi fortress with a bunch of like glass doors with key cards and this like elevator that you can I think you just fly up and down the elevator shaft. There's another dungeon that actually does. There's like 3 dungeons that use Githyanki, by the way, and very weird. It's like the layers were made by Githyanki. I don't know if they like were like, oh shit, Baldur's Gate 3 is doing so well, we gotta really play up all the Githyanki stuff. But there's literally like at least 3 of these adventures that have to do with Githyanki stuff. But the weird thing is, you're given all that information. The layer is interesting, where it's run by Modrons. There's no Githyanki left here. It's an old, like, abandoned place. It's run by Modrons, but the Modrons are all in hiding, which is kind of interesting, because they're afraid of the dragon's wrath, because the dragon's blaming them for stealing its shit. There's a few, like, things left over, like a spectator guarding an area and a water elemental in the fountain. But then the party can just beeline to, and obviously I'm not a fan of the kind of Dyson logo style map art here. The party can just beeline towards the lair because, again, the bag is like telepathically telling them, hey, here's where you need to go. And then it's a brass dragon hiding out in this like rubble wall. But there's no other way here, from what I can tell. You'd think, oh, maybe we can go upstairs and stuff, but it's all actually like not connected to the final room. Instead, it's a rubble wall where you basically will encounter the dragon plus an earth elemental. It's a very important charisma check to make this brass dragon like not attack you and blame you as the thieves who are returning to like steal more shit. And instead, the dragon tells you, like, well, you need to go catch the thief. Which is an interesting thing, except, again, the party's been told all that information about, oh, well, actually, you have a magic bag who's talking to us, and can we just get this bag off your hands? And then the party can just purchase the bag from them, and then that's the end of the quest. So there is a whole dungeon here the party could explore, but there's nothing that has to do with the main quest here. And in fact, there's like even a red herring with they explore like this one pit that has like a kobold in it who's been stealing some stuff, but he hasn't been stealing like from the dragon's hoard specifically. So it's a huge area, like 20 plus rooms. There's a security chamber the party can find where actually one of the Modrons did contact the Githyanki, and like one Githyanki knight shows up, but even she doesn't give a fuck about anything that's going on. There's some shambling mounds the party can fight. I mean, the balcony is crumbling apart, which is cool to jump over. This is one where I like the dungeon design, except I feel like it's not used like I want it to be used. Like there should be a way for there should be a reason, lock the door, whatever the party has to explore to get the key that they need to make it to the other area, to make an excuse for them to go upstairs, or make it that the bag is not in the hoard, instead it's been stolen by maybe the kobold or something over there, or the dragon doesn't let them pass unless they find a thief. So then the dragon, or they have to go and find the thief, and then they go find that kobold and bring him in front of the dragon, and then there's a whole big confrontation there. So it's just missing a lot of story stuff that make it more interesting. And then I just think the whole bag thing also isn't really utilized much. Again, really small conclusion. I hate it when the conclusion is just like ask what's a question. It's like, hey, they eventually discovered its true nature. What they do with it is up to them. Like, oh, you've got a bag of devouring now. Like, it just, okay. So I think it really drops the ball on the storytelling. I like parts of the beginning of the story, which is that the kidnapped person trying to get saved is a sentient magic item, but I hate the fact that it tells them everything up front, I guess. And then I hate the fact that it's actually really easy to get there, and it's like they're handheld through this dungeon, and they make it there, and then it's kind of over. So I would have created a lot more of stuff going on here. Maybe play up the horror angle, like nobody knows it's a dragon. The Modrons don't even know what it is, and they're like afraid of some vicious monster rage or something. I don't know. There's different things you can do to make this a lot more interesting, because I don't like the map art itself. I'd have to use different map art, so that also loses points for me. But I like the fact that you are exploring this old Githyanki creche with all these interesting like Modron servants and kind of more mechanical astral stuff happening here. There's even an astral gate at the last room that is broken. You just kind of take psychic damage if you drop through it. So I like the concept of this dungeon, but I don't like the execution of the story, and ultimately that what loses a lot of points for me. So that is For Whom the Void Calls is my number 9. All right, number 8, we jump to Before the Storm. This is the level, gosh, it's level 10. It doesn't even feel like level 10 on this one. This is the Black Dragon one. This one doesn't fit the theme of the dragon either to me. Black Dragon should be very like necromancy and death themed, and this one just like runs a pirate gang. Recently also. Very, very cool art though. I love the artwork associated with this. No knock against it whatsoever. This is a fabulous, I mean, this looks like the poster map art. It just looks awesome. We get this whole town angle, although there's a bizarre start to this one where the players are in the town. A big raid by pirates and a black dragon has just happened, but the party wasn't there for that. But it's so recent that like buildings are on fire. So I thought that was bizarre, like to time it that way. Like you either come in and just see the aftermath and people are cleaning up and you're like, oh man, what's going on? Or you're there during the attack. It feels very weird to be there for like the immediate aftermath of that. It's just an excuse to have an inciting incident, I guess. But if you're going to do that, then go the full way. Like have the full attack happen and let the party have to deal with that. That would have really rocketed this up a lot for me. And would have been a good fix, I guess. Instead, they save a few people from a burning building. They talk to the mayor and realize that the pirates didn't take people. Instead, they took 2 gems, which help protect their village from a bunch of storms, because apparently the village is built very close to the elemental plane of air, which, I mean, you're playing with, not playing with fire, playing with thunderstorms if you're going to do that. It seems like a bad, I mean, I guess a bunch of people live in Tornado Alley, so similar deal. So you have to rescue or save these gems, these magical gems from the dragon. You're told where it is, and you're told that the pirate gang has always been around, but they've never been that like mean, I guess. There's kind of a weird bit where like, oh, they're just kind of almost a local like Lost Boys group. But now lately they become very vicious. And again, you're told ahead of time that like, oh yeah, and there's a black dragon who literally like clawed the gems out and is now most likely leading this pirate crew or just involved with them or something. So again, I think this one would be more interesting if they actually hid the fact that it's a black dragon boss at the end, because you actually find the body of their previous ruler, and I don't know. I think that'd be one way I would fix this one is like hide the fact that it's a dragon who's the new captain, and then they quickly realize as they explore this dungeon that it's actually a giant black dragon lair, and the cave dungeon is appropriately large. The first half is basically a pirate crew dungeon. There's one person that they get to talk to who is not loyal to the dragon, but who was part of the old pirate crew, and then everybody was kind of heavily pressured into basically working for the dragon on penalty of death, and he was spared that penalty because he's a good cook, I guess. So you can deal with the pirates up here, which in level 10 though feels a little high to be dealing with a pirate gang, right? Like, I don't know, it's an odd combo. So it's a whole pirate thing at first, and you deal with them, and you're fighting like mage and assassin pirates, I guess. So they're higher level. There's a one funny scene which actually has there it is. You get to see the old captain who's been just insult to injury killed, and you find this. Why would you not like create a scene here where it says, hey, if the players want to use Speak with the Dead, they can talk with the captain and learn some stuff. I was like, well, why not make him a ghost or some kind of a revenant or undead that can just talk to the party, because that's an interesting role-playing scene, and kind of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and I think that would be amazing. Like that's an easy fix right there. Turn this into an actual, creature that the party can use would be fantastic. And then it's just the second half is a kind of almost an Underdark dungeon crawl where it's full of these giant acid pools, which again look really cool on this map. A lot of the map art is going to be wasted on the party though, because they're not going to see a lot of the cool stuff that's put in here because it's all in the dark layer. So they make it through these giant acid pools. They got to fight like ropers and cloakers and piercers, all this Underdark shit, violet fungus and necro hulk. And then the black dragon, it has 3 dark mantles that descend on party members and do the whole darkness thing, and then it can really destroy them. So a very just classic hostile boss fight in here. There's no real like story twists whatsoever. I mean, it's fine, I guess, as far as like a dragon in a lair. Which there are a couple of those. I'm trying to think if my bottom 2 were just a dragon in a lair. I don't think they were. I think this is the most, like, in terms of having to fight the dragon at the end too. This is the worst one to me. It's the weakest one. If you want to have just a mission where your party is going to have to fight a dragon in a lair, it's fine, but there are better ones in this module for sure. And I do think the whole pirate rescuing thing just feels a little off for level 10, but it's like, oh, and then you have to fight like this adult black dragon with, I mean, I don't know. So I don't know, the first half doesn't really match the second half, but the way I would fix it is to not let the players know that the black dragon is actually behind them, but learn that through the context of this dungeon crawl and through the various people that you have access to. I guess the problem is you would meet the cook and he would immediately say like, oh yeah, Sable Wing's a big fucking black dragon. Although I think adults can shapeshift as, cause it's something they added in the 2024 rules, right? Where you could like bonus action. Oh no, it's only the metallic dragons that do that. Cause it'd be cooler if he was like a captain dude somewhere, but yeah, I think the actual chromatic dragons don't mess around with that. They'd rather just be dragons. Maybe that part doesn't work. I don't know. So this would be a harder one for me to fix. I just think there's better adventures. All right. Number 7 is a Copper for a Song. This one is very unique because it is very story and lore driven and not combat driven. In fact, this is, I believe, the first of the 3 adventures which can be played as a solo player. And you can also play through the whole thing without any combat whatsoever, which either interests you or maybe turns you off. To me, I like it when the ones I like the best have a balance between combat, role-playing, exploration, all the different pillars. I don't like it when something is just very strictly combat heavy, which we're going to see in literally the next one. And I don't like it when things are very strictly social and role-playing heavy, which I think is this one. This one is actually follows up to one of the regions from Journeys through the Radiant Citadel, the God's Breath region, which was one of my higher ranked adventures from that ranking video, Written in Blood, because that was a very horror themed adventure. This one is, again, it's steeped in the lore and culture, which if you want to explore that kind of thing as players, I think you'll like it a lot. You're learning about the song that should restore the land's soil. And it has been, and you talk to a bunch of people, it's been a bunch of social stuff throughout the town of Listening Post, and then that leads you to a dragon lair of a copper dragon. It's copper for songs, that's the joke. You journey across the rattle, and there's only, the main encounter is a bunch of hill giants, which reminds me very much of like The Hobbit meeting the trolls, where it's like, it's dangerous, but you're supposed to overcome this challenge via anything but fighting. It even says, as an influence action, you can bribe them, you can intimidate them, you can even do a performance check, which I'm okay with generally. I think it's really interesting, actually, to have a bunch of like big, powerful creatures that are not necessarily immediately hostile, and they're kind of like, I don't know, drunkenly carousing or something. So that part is fine. It lost me a little bit, though, when the actual dungeon crawl, which the map art is fantastic, continues that theme, basically, of everything is kind of a non-hostile approach. There is an interesting bit where once the party, or the single person, makes it to the giants, there are multiple entrances to the dungeon. It's very much like this underground, almost like anthill style, like tunnels and caverns. And there are multiple entrances, and that's actually, true of the dungeon itself, which is on the same map, which is cool. So there are multiple, I think it's just N1, N2, N3, and N4 is the way it's organized, but each one comes off of a different top end. So the party could enter in multiple different locations. But otherwise, it's a bunch of just kind of almost Alice in Wonderland style encounters where it's just a bunch of silly things happening in the party. Very Feywild-ish in a way, almost. The kobolds just trying to like carve a statue. A bunch of Galabdur, which are the fun little rock people, are all just engaging in, I think some of them are hiding from the giant, some of them are playing some kind of game, but like none of them are hostile to the party. There's a genie that, as long as the party is very like polite and kind of bow down to, the genie's totally fine with them. There's 2 important encounters. One of them is the dragon itself, and then there's a bard character who's been like put in suspended animation, the sequester spell. The party will need to encounter one of those to complete the quest, basically, and it's be weird not to encounter the dragon. But the dragon encounter is just a social encounter, essentially, and the party can make a very high check to try and get the dragon to give up the song. The only potential danger, the fact that the dragon is raising 2 green wormlings for some strange reason. She just adopted them, is trying to raise them to be not shitty green dragons, I guess. So they could be up to some mischief. And the only other thing is a random purple worm encounter. What level is this one? Yeah, it's level 12. So to have a level 12 encounter that has almost no combat whatsoever is a bold choice. And it means you could almost run this at any level if you go into it knowing that... That almost makes the party just want to beat up the giants more, though, if they're already level 12, right? Because if you're level 12, you can fight giants. So I feel like if this were like a level 4 or 5 adventure, and like you would be forced to use more social stuff to get through things, but still have some like combat and traps and dungeons. The problem is, it's a copper dragon, so it's not into like killing people. So it makes sense where its lair wouldn't be full of monsters necessarily, but I still feel like there would be some trying to carve out an area here. So, but it's higher than the ones, the other ones for a reason. Like I liked that it had enough going on. There was a step process at least. There's no real twists here other than the dragon doesn't necessarily want to give up the song, I guess. Dealing with the giants is interesting, and even if the players deal with the giants, there are certain scripted scenes where if they make noise near one of the holes or entrances, the giants will poke their head down, and basically the players have to deal with them like kind of all over again. So, and I really like the map art quite a bit. So this one, I doesn't really necessarily have any complaints, but it does go too hard on the social role-playing lore stuff for me and my group. Some of you, I think your mileage may vary basically on this one a lot, where I think if your group likes that kind of thing, then you're going to really like this adventure, and this one will probably be a lot higher on your list, especially if you were into Radiant Citadel and liked all the big the culture reflections for all those different areas. Then this one is, and I think there was another one also from another anthology book that also was like took place in the same areas, another Radiant Citadel one, but I can't think of which one that was. But it's not the first time that they've said like, oh yeah, this is like the same region as the other region. So that part's pretty cool. I guess you could combine those two, but they have nothing to do with each other. Well, I take that back. There are two NPCs that I believe are the same. Aunt Deli and then Tungsten Ward, who is the one who gives you the initial quest. I believe are characters who appear in the other one, actually. So that's kind of a cool thing. So if you like that connection, then this one is very cool. But for me, it is only number 7. All right, number 6 goes in the exact opposite direction, whereas this one was very combat light to the point of not having any combat, being very social heavy. We're going to go into the big combat one, which is Forbidden Vale Red Dragons. You might be upset that this one's not higher on my list, but I'll explain why. This one is an homage to the old, at least to me, I don't have, I didn't really play D&D till 5th edition, but to older original D&D modules, especially based on how I've seen, all the old, like, I don't know, Tomb of Horrors and all the Barrier of Mountain Peaks and all these other, the ones that are appearing in Yawning Portal and Quest to Me from a Staircase, which were older modules who have been updated to 5th edition. This reminds me of one of those older modules. The setup is really cool. You're in this giant, pristine kind of nature preserve area that's currently affected by wildfires, but the wildfires are created by a red dragon doing a rampage. And apparently the red dragon, this is another Githyanki refuge. The red dragon does this every 200 years. Used to be another red dragon did it. Now it's just this other one does it. And there's a town that the party, look at how many journal entries here. It's a huge area too. In the town, the party learn about the red dragon threat, and there's actually multiple factions what the party can deal with. Kind of reminds me of the Salt Marsh factions. And one faction just says, hey, we need to go kill this dragon because it's really, destroying the whole area. And this area is such a fertile and magically beautiful area. The springs are like, I think they're from like the astral plane or something. They give like healing benefits. Like it's a really awesome area. That's why they keep wanting to settle here despite the dragon coming out every once in a while. And one group just wants to kill the dragon. Another group says the nature lovers, part of the burning circle, say like, no, this is a natural like slash and burn thing the dragon's doing. It's part of the ecosystem. It helps protect the area. And instead, once it starts getting to where this certain flower blooms, which is blooming now, we need to now put the dragon to sleep. But it's very dangerous to do that. So of course they hire the party to go get these to make this potion, which I love that angle because to make the potion you have to explore every level of the mega dungeon that you reach. So it's a good angle. First party has to make it there, and I appreciate that there's not like a random table of events. Instead, there's scripted events. So you can see on the map, it's like V2, V3, V4. These are all scripted areas. There's like a rock that swoops down. There's like magical healing springs. The party's meant to fight the red dragon at one point while they're exploring this area and kind of get it bloodied, and then it retreats, and they have to fight it all over again. So that's all very cool. I forget if it's an adult or a young. Level 9. Yeah, I honestly forget if it's an adult or young. So once they reach this final area, so again, there's already a lot of stuff going on here. It's the Gardens of Exhibit. It's a multi-tiered 4-level, 20-foot tall ziggurat. Each tier is 20 feet tall. I think the whole thing is way bigger than that, obviously. And it's a massive, massive 20 plus, 25 plus room map. And the only thing that loses me, unfortunately, it's got the art style from Whom the Void Calls. I do not like this art style at all. I would have to replace this. It looks terrible on Roll20. So all that aside, it is an old school, like room-to-room hack and slash dungeon crawl. Like, there are so many monsters in here. It is absurd. And there's even situations where I'm like, oh, this would be a good situation for a social encounter. But the module is like, and then they just fight it. Like, a Bahir is here. And it could be a social encounter. In fact, in one of the old modules, I forget the name of it now, one of the ones from Questing for the Staircase, I think, could be a social encounter, but it's not. It's just kind of wants to attack the party base, even though it's hunting. It's kind of hunting the red dragon. I mean, that'd be an awesome creature to do, and you could create a whole subquest out of that. There's a nasty Naga up here. There's Yuan Ti. There's the old Githyanki leader who's still here in the sequester spell. If the party does not find him and does not fight him here, then he is added to the Red Dragon boss fight. The Red Dragon pops up out of here, and he teleports on there. Now they have to deal with a Githyanki knight on a Red Dragon. So it behooves them to try to fight him early, even though he's literally like invisible on his floating ship in the sequester spell. And yeah, the map art definitely does not do this one any favors. But like, I like the quest angle of putting the dragon to sleep because you have to explore each level, other than just go down the magical elevator shaft and go fight the dragon. But level 2 is just ridiculous, especially. It's run by a Green Hag Coven, which is already a big thing to have. You've already got the Red Dragon boss. Now you're adding basically another boss fight. They have a Chimera, whom they refer to as their son. So that's already a big creature. They have a bunch of manticores that roam the area. That's a lot of creatures. And then they have a Mirror of Life trapping full of creatures because we needed more, including a Hydra and a Hill Giant, although the Hill Giant could be convinced maybe to work for the party. That is hilariously insane. Like, this was not a map that needed more creature stuff, and this one has it in spades. So if you enjoy a lot of combat, it's kind of the opposite. Well, it is the opposite of Copper for a Song, where it's like, this one goes too hard for me for that one. I did rank it a little bit higher as number 6. This is, by the way, the level 9. Because it has extra steps involved, and I really liked the wildfire angle and the fact that there's danger at first, and the party is given this quest to go get the multiple ingredients to make the sleeping potion. That all, to me, elevated it above Copper for a Song, even though once you're in the ziggurat itself, it's a lot of combat going crazy. On the very top level, you find one of the other Githyanki has been transformed into a treant. You have to fight the treant or get one, because, of course, one of the ingredients is involved in the treant. The only thing that isn't immediately hostile, I believe, is the Merid in here. Everything else is basically going to be a fight. And, of course, that ends with the Red Dragon fight, which, by the way, the black and white art looks really fabulous. It's like that old kind of, magazine art, I guess, or, book art where it's just black and white. Looks great in this art, but it just looks not good when it's on the map art. So that part doesn't translate very well at all. So it does lose points for that as well. So that's my number 6. I think this one has some really cool features with it, and I would run this one, but I would have to rebalance and rejigger the dungeon because it's way too combat focused. So I would want to change a lot of those creatures to be not hostile, or just lower the temperature on them or whatever. And then I'd also have to find new map art. So those kind of lower it to the very bottom of basically what I would want to run with a lot of adjustments. All right, now we're getting into my top half, right? Because now we're approaching number 5. And number 5 for me is going to be the... which one is this? This is the Bronze Dragon, the Dragon of Anajkir. And this one does do a good job with a more story-heavy adventure, and I think it has an appropriate balance here. I actually wish it went further with the story, and I've got some cool ideas that I would do with this one if I were to run it. It's got some great map art. It starts off, it's got a really cool adventure background, first of all. It starts off with the party getting contacted that there's people who have been shipwrecked by a dragon attack, and they were shipwrecked on this island, and the island is only home to a single monastery. And they're told this via a sending stone to the quest giver, and the quest giver says, "Go save my friend." So the party makes it on the ship, but they're like, "Oh well, if there's a dragon sinking ships, we're in trouble." So the ship has a bunch of bribe money. I guess that's kind of the weak point of it, and the dragon is not interested in money because the dragon is protecting the son of his former bonded knight, almost very Dragonlance-y, who has since passed. But the son has made it here. And then, unbeknownst to the dragon, the son is an assassin who's like a leader of an assassin's guild who put a bunch of political killings and stuff. And he made it here as a refugee. He's basically trying to hide out, basically, after he's been hunted with a couple of his cronies. The dragon doesn't know that, but the dragon knows he's the son. And of course, he knew that this was like a safe place for him to go to. So he's here and being protected by the dragon. So there's an interesting bit of drama there where the dragon's protecting him and good friends with him out of obligation for the family he works for and loves. But the dragon doesn't know the truth about this guy. And then what happened is that the dragon sinks all the ships that get near here. And the dragon sunk a ship. And that's what belonged to the friend who had contacted the quest giver. And amongst that group of survivors, one of them recognizes the son, the assassin, as what he is, and that's what has now created this bit of drama here. I wish that were a little fully explored, because what happens is the party, whether they get sunk by the dragon or not, they end up at the monastery, and this first level, they basically just talk to the leader, whatever his name is, Anish, and he explains everything, and it's a little too much. I wish they had gone a little bit further into maybe some kind of mystery going on here, like they don't know what's going on. Or maybe like monks are being killed, or like because these guys would maybe be trying to be targeted or something, and maybe the monks accidentally have like eaten poisoned food, or something's going on where there's more danger involved. I wish there was a steps of investigation here before the party knows immediately, because this one could have been rocketed up to my number one if they had really done a good job with the storytelling of it, because I liked the premise. I don't necessarily think they dropped the ball. I just think they didn't do as much as I wish they would have done. And maybe that's a result of it being part of this anthology and not being its own adventure. But I think a good DM could do some really cool, fun things with this one to play up the more like mystery angle. You can even do a horror aspect of it. Maybe it was like lightning crashing outside and people are being offed for some reason. Like, I think you could do a really cool job of that. But otherwise, the first floor is not necessarily hostile. The party meets the latest shipwreck survivors, one of whom would recognize the other guy as an assassin. And then there's a bit where you can like loot the monk's like whole stash if you do this kind of little treasure trap area, which is nice. And then the second level, which again, I think everything happens a little too easy and too quick, is you meet up with the assassin, and he's got some doppelgangers and an Oni all shapeshifted to look like pirate crew. That seems like one too many crazy things. He runs off into the dragon, and the party has to basically chase him. And then they have to deal with this final confrontation where they're fighting the dragon, but they can convince the dragon, like, hey, this guy's actually up to no good. But again, I feel like if the party had to learn that on their own versus just having the quest giver tell them all that information, it's a little too Adventure League-y, I guess, where it keeps the plot moving a little too quickly. I wish I would slow things down and allow them to investigate. So this one I have a lot of commentary on how to improve it, but I think in a good way. Like, it makes me excited to want to do that and not like frustrated like Will of Orcus, where I'm like, oh, there's so much I would have to do to make this even make sense or work. This one, I think it all makes sense and I can see it playing out story-wise, but I would just do more steps along the way to make it a little bit more interesting. But I really like the concept. And I mean, it's a great excuse for why a normal good dragon would be not, and it says specifically he's not trying to harm others. He's just trying to keep them away and protect his this assassin character, even though he doesn't know the truth about this character. So I think that would be a really cool twist and a way you could even maybe solve this diplomatically if the party does everything correctly, while still having some fights, because you would still have to fight the doppelgangers and the Oni down here. So I think it's got a great mix of all that stuff with a bit of an emphasis on the story, but I would even go harder with the story. So that's the Dragon of Najkir. That's the level 7 adventure. All right, for my number 4, we're gonna go into the mega big one, which is Dragons of the Sandstone City. This is the blue dragon one. This is also designed for level 12. I am a sucker for any kind of desert, like tomb, pyramid, whatever cave, cool thing thematically is going on there. Sphinxes, mummies, like all that shit. Like I love it. I'm instantly. It's a theme that I like, so I will say I'm kind of biased towards already liking this one, and thankfully it is pretty damn good. It actually has a plot. The dragon is trying to do something. It's not just a dragon chilling in a lair. The dragon, which is an ancient blue dragon, by the way, is has a plot to resurrect generations of other dragons, and in doing so, he's got to do a bunch of stuff. But the quest giver gives you a egg, who is because the blue dragon recently killed a I forget if it's a bronze dragon, I think. And with this egg, that's the weak part, is they're giving this egg for whatever. Like, you're the chosen ones. You've been chosen to do this. Like, why? But you're given this egg, and by the way, if you're running this as a campaign, you're supposed to run this adventure right off the bat, and then the party is supposed to seep this egg in the hoard of each dragon that they encounter, which is a nice way of linking all the adventures together as a campaign. Even if you don't, though, you're still supposed to take this egg into this ancient city, and then and you're not being really told why, but the egg should allow you to defeat this very powerful adversary. So first you have to go meet a Sphinx, and the Sphinx tells you how to enter the ancient city, and then you make it here, and it's a really cool dungeon crawl, but it's far from a just room to room hack and slash. It's absolutely massive. It's this cool, again, it's like a city plus cavern map with this like lightning crystals everywhere that deal damage if they take damage. There's sinkholes that the dragon uses to get around. There's a shit ton of mummies to fight. In fact, the mummy lord is still here, and he will make you put his scepter back in. Although I wish there was a little bit more with that, where it just kind of says that he commands them to, but like otherwise he fights them, I guess, and he can respawn. There's a genie, I think it's a Dao specifically, that, in fact, do we end up seeing all the different genies in this one? That's kind of interesting. That the party can deal with, very kind of like Starscream energy, where it works for the dragon, but also kind of works to maybe undermine or betray him in the end. It's a neat map, but there's a lot of different secrets to squeeze into, and caves and stuff, but also just cool, like, I don't know, I get that kind of Uncharted feel of the Lost City. It's really like a Lost City map, but in like a dungeon crawl format, I guess, because usually when you see the Lost City, it's like an overland map, it's the Omu or something. And then there's a neat trap where the party has to put on these amulets that they find throughout the city, or else they have to make a save versus being petrified. And if they fail that save, I think it's twice the way the petrifying effect usually works, then they are literally transformed into a lightning crystal, which are, there's like humanoid shapes right here at the very entrance. And then for the final battle, the dragon literally arrives. They get like a minute to prepare, and they're supposed to know, or at least tell, the dragon egg kind of tugs them towards this area where the dragon egg, when the dragon arrives, it does two things. It depowers the ancient dragon to where he becomes now basically an adult blue dragon, but with more hit points from an ancient dragon. And then it buffs the party a little too much, in my opinion. It kind of does the thing where a lot of D&D campaigns do that, where it's like, oh, we want you to be able to fight like Azerac or whatever else by giving you this crazy buff. And it's really nuts. You get like, you heal 8d6 hit points, your weapons become supercharged, and you can catch the Wall of Fire spell. I don't know if it's once at will. Like, what is that about? So it's kind of nuts. A little bit maybe too much there because it is by itself. But I really like the dungeon crawl, and I think it's a really neat angle. And again, I'm a sucker for this kind of thing, and I think the theme is very well explored. Feels very appropriate for a blue dragon thing. So yeah, I'm thumbs up on Dragons of Sandstone City. That is my number 4. Number 3, we're getting to the really, really top of the tier now with Shivering Death. This is the white dragon lair, and this is just a dragon in a cave. But it's such a good version of a dragon in its cave lair for basically 2 reasons. One of them is because when the players first get in, or first of all, they're sent to like retrieve something from the dungeon. It's a dragon has been frozen by, or sorry, a frost giant was frozen by a white dragon, and on its body is tattooed this like ritual to plunge the world into frost or something, and the party, they're experiencing a heat wave, so they have to save this, get this information from this giant in order to like reverse their climate crisis, I guess. That's fine. When they make it here, they realize that there are a frost giant tribe that has already been here, and the half of them are not hostile, and the other half is hostile, which is interesting. So the non-hostile ones, which I think is great, that there's like a mammoth here, and he's like, petting the mammoth or like brushing it or whatever. So that's a nice non-hostile confrontation, and they learn that they were betrayed by the other. It's a brother-sister group, and the brother was betrayed by the sister. And the sister wants to now ally with the dragon, and the brother is just kind of dejectedly trying to figure out what they're doing here still. He kind of wants to bring his sister back into the fold, or he's not sure what to do. And the party can use different charisma checks to convince him, or just get information out of them. So that's all awesome. I love being able to roleplay like monstrous creatures. And then they still have to fight a bunch of giants, which is great, so don't lose that aspect. And they're more hostile to the party. And there's a big kind of open map where the party can choose multiple, ways to go. By the way, this map is not correct, and I actually contacted Roll20 about this because it's supposed to be 1 square equals 10 feet, and this is currently designed as 1 square equals 5 feet, which is why it looks very bizarre with all the giants being very big and crowded. So everything, all the tokens you see here should be half their size, I believe, and that would make a lot more sense for the context of this map and make things feel a lot bigger. Like all these should be subdivided grid spaces. You can tell by the bedrolls how they're super tiny. Like, yeah. I haven't fixed any of that, but that's how it's supposed to be. So hopefully that'll be the case whenever it gets released. And then the other thing I really like, so I love that there's a Frost Giant faction thing going on and a division between the two. And the other thing I like is that the Frost Giant sister, the leader of the villainous group, is wielding a Wand of Wonder, which you can see, where is that one? Shivering Death, it's one of the pictures. There it is. She's wielding a Wand of Wonder. The Wand of Wonder is a funny effect where you have to roll to see what it does. So she's using this as proof of her magical skills and basically as a bribery for the White Dragon to ally with the dragon and have the White Dragon on their team. And then you can see effects of the wand. So there's like one of the giants randomly has a rhinoceros pet, and it's because the wand summoned it. There's grass in one area because the wand did that. It petrified one of the giants, so you can unpetrify them perhaps. Get another giant ally, which is really nice. And then at one point you can see an ice mephit who's hidden over there. He will tell you to go down to this area where you can find a hidden campsite guarded by a bunch of young Remorazes. And that will give you the control amulet for the shield guardian that's up here, which could be a big deal for the final fight. And I love that this final area, it's not just the dragon chilling in its final lair. It's this big cutscene between the frost giant and the dragon. And if you've learned some information, you can maybe undermine the dragon. There's all these different little bits you can do. Basically, you're gathering evidence about the frost giants, so you can maybe turn them against each other, although with their various frost immunities, it wouldn't be able to do much against each other, but it's still a really cool scene that you can play up. You can even convince the other non-hostile frost giants to come help you. So in terms of this being just a dragon lair, it does a phenomenal job. In fact, just a cave dragon lair too, like the bog standard kind of, of course the white dragon lair is going to be a frozen like cave thing. But within that limitation, it does such a good job and creates that awesome balance between the story and the role playing and the combat. So for me, this one is just an awesome, best example, I think, of the one that's just a dragon in a lair. But there are two that I like a little bit more than that. Number 2 is the lowest level dungeon, which honestly, Wizards, they just knock it out of the park a lot of times when it comes to their lowest level adventures, I find. Death at Sunset. And this one is also kind of a dragon in a layer thing, but I love the unique aspect of the Red Grove. I like the story. I don't know, I just, there's little bits and pieces that I like even more than Shivering Death. This one, there was an ancient green dragon. I think this one might have also been started by Get the Yankee. I don't remember. There's a bunch of these giant redwood trees, and the ancient dragon has since passed. But in its place is a wormling, a green dragon wormling, who is now causing more corruption and shenanigans for the local elves. So they've already sent people in, they haven't come back, and the party shows up, and they're like, hey, please go check this out. Oh, by the way, we can give you antitoxin potions, which should come in handy, because that corruption is causing a lot of poison. But you'll have to go visit each of these trees and gather a sample from each of them. That's your level 1 quest, by the way, which is pretty hardcore, because there's still plenty of combat to be had here. There's mud mephits, there's giant insect swarms, which are really nasty for level 1, by the way. And even zombies you have to fight. There are some social encounters. They can meet a dryad who gives them some helpful information about what's going on here. And there's even one of the elven guards who has a dog with him that is hostile to the party. And they're going to be like, whoa, we don't want to fight a fucking dog. Who has been manipulated and intimidated by the green dragon, which does feel very thematically appropriate for the green dragon as being this kind of, I don't know, monstrous, like, what's the, that kind of right hand of the king kind of a role that the, advisor, I guess, that the green dragons often take on. So I like that that's explored here, even at this low level, is that it's the elves that did come in here. He didn't actually necessarily kill the elves. He just kind of turned them into his minions, basically, to help guard his lair. So at level 1, you're supposed to explore this area, which feels really intense for level 1, and gather all the bark samples, and then you find the actual layer, which is appropriately small yet large, if that makes sense. So this is, you're supposed to level up to level 2 for this one. And you can see where it's, basically just the layer, but there's like these offshoots, and it's densely packed with stuff to do. There's more elven guards the party can deal with, kind of similar to the one outside where they have to talk them down or fight them. They can just immediately fight I love that the fact that Skeleton's here and actually has like a miasma field of poison the party has to deal with. Poor melee guys are going to be in real trouble as they deal with this green dragon wormling. There's also a Yuan-Ti Malison, which is like a CR2 with a snake head that's got its own pit of snakes here that is loyal to the dragon. So if you don't go fight this person first, which they may not be hostile right off the bat, they will be hostile if you fight the dragon. That is a nasty fight for level 2. You have to fight a green dragon wormling boss, and then all of a sudden this Yuan-Ti Malison shows up as an additional. Oh my, that's oof. In a good way. I'm like impressed, because usually I'm like, man, adventures are so easy. Combat-wise, this one is not. This one really is intense for low levels. And then there's also like more giant insect creatures that guard the horde. So it's not a big layer, but there's a lot going on here. And again, it's level 1, level 2. There should not be much going on here. So I think it just hits that very pitch perfect between, again, social, exploration, role-playing, and all crammed into a very low-level adventure. It's got great map art. It doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of twists. You basically know there's a dragon at the end, but I think because it's such low level, I'm generally okay with it being pretty straightforward. So for me, I'm very impressed with how well this one does. I mean, Shivering Death is great, but Shivering Death is also like a level 12 adventure or whatever, or level, I don't forget what it is exactly, maybe 10 or something. Whereas this one is literally level 1 and 2, and they still managed to cram a lot of stuff in here. So for me, this is my number 2 best adventure of the bunch, which means you know what number 1 is. It's the most unique adventure here, both in art style and in its design, and I was incredibly impressed with it. And that's Baker's Dozen, one of the ones that was previewed on D&D Beyond leading up to the release of Dragon Delves. This one is the other solo optional. Sorry, I forgot. The other solo optional one was, I believe, the Dragon of Najkir, which could be done as a very social heavy one. This one, I don't know if it could be done as a very social heavy one. There's a lot of combat here as well. This does a great job of combining like a fairy tale with Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory as a dungeon crawl. And the gold dragon is almost like incidental also, which is bizarre. It's like, it's a MacGuffin. You could literally replace the gold dragon with something else that the party needs, and the adventure plays the same. So that might be the one knock against it, is that the dragon theme is like the weakest of this one, but the adventure is so damn good. The art is so cool. It all fits together really well. It starts off with this bakery on fire. The party has to go save the baker, and they learn that she blames this rival, and they go to the rival. The rival's also got a bakery, and he basically reveals that like he's got his secret ingredient is a gold dragon that he's befriended, a gold dragon wormling that roasts all of his goods, and that the dragon he thinks may have acted. It wasn't. I believe it's not even his fault that the dragon did this. I think the dragon might have just acted because he was trying to like, he complained about the other bakery, and the dragon acted on that behalf or something. Dragon's supposed to be played like very childish, I think, and like burned, like started a small fire and didn't mean to burn down the whole thing, and then fled into the nearby woods. And the nearby woods is basically where the adventure begins, which is you come across this candy cottage, and this thing is just so delightful. Like, it is jarring, yes, compared to other art styles, but it also fits really, really well. Obviously, it looks like a children's book. It's very much like a Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory too. It's not just like a witch sitting there. Because they could have done that. They could have just been like, oh, it's a single house with a witch and it's, the cauldron and stuff. Like, no, this is Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. There's like, everything is made out of chocolate. There's like a toffee factory. There's a giant like cyclops wielding a lollipop who can be tricked with candy, basically. you make it to the actual hag, who's the boss here, and of course he's just cooking up stuff. You can even try to, I think, bribe him by finding his dentures in a different area. There's dryads who guard their like candy apple trees. There's chockatresses, which are cockatrices who petrify you into chocolate forms. Of course, I believe there's a hilarious spell book you can find in the outhouse that's got like stinking cloud and stuff, and like thunderwave and stuff in there. And then there's a lower chamber to the cottage, which holds as a captive the brother of the original quest giver, the woman who is on fire. And it turns out she had actually been here before and traded her brother for her talent at becoming a master baker. So the only complaint I have here, this one's nearly flawless for me. I think it's just so awesome the way it does this. It works for a really great one shot also. And you can do as much or as little combat as you probably want to. There's just so many good options here. You can make things more aggressive. I mean, the animated rung of smothering will probably attack you. The bugbears could definitely attack you. This guy could attack you. But you could get through a lot of this via smart play. It doesn't mean it's not dangerous, though. There's a lot of dangerous stuff here. There's these of the gingerbread men or the tough stat block. The only thing I think that rubbed me a little bit the wrong way is that I wish there was a little bit of a twist where like the quest giver isn't actually contrite and worried about the brother, and the brother is also this naive, like, oh man, I miss my sister and everything, and he's been turned into a fucking candy creature, hasn't aged at all. But the woman, like, if you return him and like confront her with the truth, she's like immediately like, oh, I'm so sorry and everything, instead of being like this, she's racked with guilt for putting, or sorry, the wormling is racked with guilt, and then with she says, maybe it's under conclusion here. Oh no, there's conclusion. Confronts Edith about her crimes. She confesses, burdened with years of guilt. The confectioner turns herself into the local authorities and never reopens her shop. So I guess you do find justice there, but I almost wish it was a darker turn for some reason. And he like, and maybe the brother was like, yeah, he was like more upset. And he like, my sister condemned me to be here. And then when the party confronts Edith, then that becomes more of a drama thing, basically, versus this like, I don't know, more happy, saccharine, sweet ending. So that's the only thing I would probably change, is make mine a little bit more darker at the end. And plus I just feel like fairy tales are rife for doing kind of dark stuff at the end. But I love this one so much. It's so different than all of the others. It's such the opposite of what I thought when I thought of like Dragon Layers. I appreciate that obviously most of some of the adventures at least are basically just dragons and caves. I think there's probably too many of that. This one does such the opposite thing that and it's so well done as a version of that I have to rank it as my number one. I was absolutely blown away by this adventure, just apropos of being a dragon layer in general. Again, you could almost replace like the gold dragon wormling whom you're spent to like rescue with anything else, and then it has nothing really to do with dragon delves, which maybe that's also a bit of a complaint because the dragon theme isn't that strong in it. But man, it's just such a cool adventure. I don't know. I couldn't help but rank it pretty high on mine. So I'm very curious to see how well it would rank on all of yours. So as a final aside, let's go over my full ranking tier list, which means I'm putting them, in the classic little tier maker thing. So in my opinion, Baker's Dozen is S tier. It is absolutely amazing. I want to really try to find a way to run this adventure in some capacity, even if it doesn't really fit into any of my adventures. I think running it just as a one-shot, as like a fairy tale themed, kind of a one-shot situation could work pretty good. But you could also work it in as other kind of adventures as well. And I think the map art certainly just fits it. So to me, that one is S tier. Absolutely amazing. Recommend it to everybody. A tier are the adventures that I really like, and I think I would probably run with some adjustments if needed, which are basically 2 through 4. So that's Death at Sunset, Shivering Death, Dragons of the Sandstone City, and the Dragon of Najkir. Those are the A tier ones. I think do a great job. They would need maybe some, improvements or changes for my group to make them work pretty well, but I would also recommend those. B tier are the ones that I think are okay, but they have some flaws that would require a lot more work to motivate me to run them, and that would be the 6, 7, 8 ones, which are Forbidden Veil. That's the big red dragon. Ziggurat one. 7, which is a copper for a song, and 8, which is Before the Storm. Those are they're all very different from each other, I feel like, also, but they all have issues that I would want to change before I'd want to run them, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend those. And then the ones that I think are just big misses for me and require a lot of change for me to even want to run them, to where I'm like, it's probably not worth it, which is my C tier, and that is number 9 and 10, which is For Whom the Void Calls and The Will of Orcus. All right, that is my ranking video, all 10 adventures from Dragon Delves. If you enjoy these kind of videos, like Roll20 reviews and other ranking videos, definitely follow our own D&D adventures that we have, our live plays and everything. Check out the YouTube channel and support my work at patreon.com/Rogue Watson. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Brandon, Genocider, Roleplayer, Roll, Christopher, Big Nut, John, Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Lumpy Spuds, Warden, Udimono LC, Tom, They're Eating the Dogs, Marcus, Snuggy, Hugo, Jerry, Shea, Sasha, and John, and Gold patrons, RPG Paper Crimes, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Lizard Lounge, Jerome, Nathan, Passacatora, Scott, Rufus, Jerry, Glenn, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support.